I say in this book, I will be glad to have the argument with anyone who wants to challenge me, that were it not for the Russian digital intervention in the American election, in all of its breathtakingly clever, imaginative, deceitful, and cynical ways in 2015 and particularly 2016, and its hacking of the files of the Democratic candidate and her campaign, and the strategic release of them, and so on and so forth, and the very skillful manipulation of public opinion throughout the final months of the campaign. In particular, Hillary Clinton would have won. And it is also true that if James Comey hadn't made the announcement he made in the run-up to the general election, Hillary Clinton would have won. And it's also true, if she'd been a better candidate with a better campaign, she would have won. These things can all be true. But the fact that the first thing I said is true is a very humbling and deeply troubling reflection on our vulnerability as a democracy that, frankly, many people who work for Hillary Clinton can't take on board because it is just so massively unsettling. This is not only going to happen again, it has been happening again, as recently as the European Union elections last month, where the European Union just delivered a very detailed report on what the Kremlin did in a number of different European countries in multiple different languages to intrude on their social media, manipulate their fears and divisions, and try and aid all their right-wing, illiberal, populist friends. And this doesn't begin to comprehend the vulnerability, the most frightening vulnerability to my mind that we are looking at in 2020. And I think one of the most significant reasons why there's a very good chance that Donald Trump will be, quote, reelected. And that is our electoral infrastructure of registering voters and holding elections and protecting the vote is vulnerable to foreign manipulation. We know that the Russians were in the voter registration databases of 20 states in 2016. They didn't do anything, we believe, the FBI believes, or has no evidence that they did, but they could have. What if they do that in 2020 and people go to the polls on election day or in the days before, if there's early voting, and find that their names aren't there? And honest, well-meaning voter registration or voter administration workers say, you know, sorry, something happened, you're not registered to vote. This happens on a large scale. There could be chaos in the United States of America, and chaos, maybe even more than the re-election of Donald Trump, is exactly what Vladimir Putin wants. So there is an overriding existential imperative now for the future of American democracy, which senators like Mark Warner and many members of Congress are increasingly writing about and advocating about and introducing legislation to try and be vigilant about, to address this and really get serious about hardening and modernizing our electoral administration before it's too late. The most obvious piece of legislation is don't ever hold a vote in the United States which can't be audited with a paper trail so that there can be a recount. Another kind of obvious thing is let people vote if they want to vote and give them every opportunity to vote. And so I'm very hopeful in many respects. I'll get to the closing in a couple minutes. One reason why is we are actually having more and more states now that are passing automatic voter registration act, what are called motor voter laws or similar types of laws, where if you have any contact at all with a government agency, you're automatically registered to vote. If you don't want to name a party, you're just registered as an independent. Where many states are taking the initiative to make it as easy as possible to vote. Want to vote by mail? You don't need an excuse, you just do it. There's your ballot in the mail. But there are other states, and they happen to be states almost exclusively controlled by the Republican Party, I'm sorry to say, because I do not like making partisan statements when I'm talking about democracy as a principle. It's just simply an empirical fact that virtually all of the efforts to make it harder to vote, to suppress the vote, and to suppress the vote with racial precision and intention are being promulgated by one political party, which obviously sees it to its advantage to make it more difficult for certain types of people in the United States, from certain racial groups and from certain socioeconomic origins, to have greater difficulty in voting. This is not the way to win elections. It's not a winning bet on the future in the United States of America, which is becoming a more pluralistic nation in a variety of ways. So in any case, we need much greater vigilance and determination to protect our electoral infrastructure and move it forward, not backwards.